Sadhguru, a Grahastha yogi, carries the same intensity, insight, wisdom and passion as the ancient sages to bring well-being to every individual. A mystic, yogi, visionary humanitarian and poet, Sadhguru is a spiritual master with a difference. Traversing seamlessly from the ancient to the ultra-modern, he bridges the gap between the known and the unknown, enabling all those who encounter him to explore and experience the deepest dimensions of life. Making a clear break from mere customs and rituals, Sadhguru presents the inner dimension in a scientific manner as it is relevant to our times.
Namaskaram. Through this conversation, we are going to better understand one of the most crucial questions of our time. What is the relationship between business and environment? Conceptually, much easier to understand that one cannot grow at the cost of other. But in practice, with a lot of contradictions that we see all over. Businesses in their pursuit to grow use environment which, like businesses, are not created by individuals but over a period of time by communities and cultures, but get used for individual profit pursuits. And in today's competitive environment, business growth means cheaper, more and continuous supply of cheap raw material. So I would say more than business of environment, it's become easiness of environment. Being very easy, taking environment for granted. What in today's situation when there is competition has not just remained local but global, should businesses do when they are actually aware that's not sustainable, but don't know how to deal with it, because once they start dealing with it, they start becoming unsustainable themselves. So what would be your advice for today's businesses?
You're going for the jugular. Now, to simplify that very complex question is how to eat the cake and have it too. One thing is we must learn to eat it slowly, which is not the business of the business that you're talking about, which is the business of humanity as a whole. Another thing is we must be able to produce more cake out of less dough. Another thing is we need to reduce the number of mouths which want to eat the cake. In our effort to save environment, because it is no more a myth. Facts are all arranged in such a way. It is a clear statement. If we go the way we go, where we are going right now, it's a disastrous spot, but we call it business as usual. If we go business as usual, the planet is in for a very serious turndown in the way it functions. So people will say, recycling will help, use alternative power, it'll help. Yes, it'll all help, but in a very minor way. All the alternate systems of power put together, right now they're not even producing 2% of the power requirement in the world. That's a fact. Having windmills, having solar systems, having this is more entertainment value than real value. I'm not trying to beat it down. It is very, very needed. Even 1% is very big. I'm not trying to belittle that effort. But I'm saying we are not yet looking for solutions, we are only looking for slowing down the disaster. We want to gift the disaster to our children, we don't want it to happen in our time. Isn't it? That's what it means. That's all we can do with these kind of interventions. I'm not saying we should stop them. Please don't understand, okay, so it's not needed. No, it is very needed, very, very needed, and it's very crucial that it must be done. But if we as a humanity, not just as a business, if we as a humanity, we are serious about this, one thing we need to understand is all ecological problems have come because of irresponsible breeding among human beings. In the sense, when I say irresponsible breeding, there is something called as natural selection which the nature is always doing. Because of our intelligence and technologies, now we are capable of seeing every child that is born largely survives in most countries. The infant mortality rate has been considerably brought down in many countries, though still it needs to be worked upon in many other countries yet, including India for that matter. But the important thing is, medical sciences kind of postponed our death, but we are refusing to postpone the birth. We have, to some extent. Women were bearing children at 14, now I think average childbearing age has become over 22, which is a little bit of postponement. But we know at 7 billion or 7.2 billion, it's not an effective postponement. Now, coming to the businesses, we need to understand whatever one's business may be, the problem right now is, instead of using commerce for our well-being, we are driven by commerce. I will come to more practical solutions, but it's very important we understand the present situation in which we are in. At the rate at which we are biting at the cake, there'll be no cake after 25, 30 years. That's a very conservative amount of time. More drastic, people say 10, 12 years. Planet has enormous capability to recoup from the damage that it goes through. But we have to allow a certain amount of time, otherwise it cannot recoup. So either we consciously handle this, or Mother Earth will do it to us in a cruel manner. This possibility is looming in front of us, but we are in a mode of self-destruction. So I'm not making this out to be a doom story or a doom prediction. The important thing is the gravity of what we are facing has to be realized. You don't try to lift a ton of weight with your little finger. Right now, that's what we're trying to do. A massive, a mega problem, we are trying to handle with small incentives here and there. For a drowning man, even a straw, holding onto a straw seems to be a great support, that's different. But that's not the way it needs to be addressed if you're serious about a solution. Right now, what I see in the world is that seriousness is not there. We are still trying to satisfy somebody. We want to look eco-friendly in front of somebody else. We are not looking at ecology, that it is in a drastic phase right now, that if we do not do the corrective action right now, we will pass on a legacy which we will be ashamed of and for which we will be accused and hated for by our children, by the next generation of people. Is it all in the hands of business? No. It is not in the hands of business alone, but business can play a significant role. Like you have made a business out of ecological solutions, that's wonderful because making a business out of it is very important. Jack is doing something as a contribution. For you, that's a business itself. I think it's important that it becomes a business because then only it is sustainable. We're talking about sustaining the ecology, but first of all, the business has to sustain itself. If any human activity has to sustain itself, the two parties involved in it both should benefit. Only then you can sustain the activity. Whether it's the business of mega interactions between corporations or nations, or within communities, or even between two human beings. If your marriage has to work, it should be beneficial to both the people. If it's only one person being benefited, it's not going to be there for long, isn't it? So in that sense, it is best that every ecological solution becomes a kind of a business because only then it can be sustained over a period of time. What can the businesses do? Other businesses whose business is not ecology but they have some other business, now the engine is roaring somewhere, they know that it is causing damage to ecology, but you can't stop the engine. All of us need the engine to roar. We all want the engines in the world to be roaring. Even if it stops for a moment, we will all complain. So we are in this mode where the humanity as a whole has still not faced the reality the way it is. Probably this is the unfortunate way of the humanity, the disaster has to strike, then only they will know. So the larger humanity, this could be true, but the more aware humanity which is in the positions of responsibility and power, this part of the humanity has to act now. But right now, we are doing ecological awareness all over the world and asking common humanity to act. But a humanity which can make a difference, that small segment which holds the power of the world, that is not yet acting. For whatever political reasons, military reasons, economic reasons, all kinds of reasons. And one reason, I feel, is the democratic setups that we have. Lot of leaders are refusing to have long-term vision, their vision is only for 4 years or 5 years. Beyond that, people are not thinking, they want to produce maximum results in that, they are not thinking very long. So it is the democratic setup of the world. So some kind of international law which we are working towards, endlessly working towards, it should just take a day to arrive at it, if all of us were willing, but it's going on. So where does the business fit into all this?
Before we get into these larger issues, I would like to take it back to the way businesses are conducted. Yes, cakes have to be made, cakes are needed, but the way cakes are made, can we bring some difference in that? Even the ecological solutions that you're talking about, say using wind to produce energy instead of building dams to rehabilitate people, or nuclear energy which can be apparently very dangerous, or coal in thermal power plants. If wind energy is done in a way that does not consider local communities' interest, even wind energy we will not be able to produce for too long. We had a last conversation
I was just about to make a proposal to you for that.
Yeah, in fact 3 years ago you
So I want to make the proposal very public so that you can't go back on it.
No, 3 years ago you did advise and we had a conversation and we talked about the use of land around turbines. We said that even if we just harvest rainwater in the areas around turbines, the groundwater levels improve, soil moisture improves, fodder cultivation is possible, local cattle get more healthier and give more milk, and local people then don't hate wind energy companies to acquire land. Because these ecological solutions are seen by governments and the bodies that you're talking about as much better than extractive industries. At the same time, even those green sector industries will have to think about social sanctions, and social sanctions will come only when the cakes are also available for them to taste.
So I told you that land could be used to enhance the rural life in a tremendous way.
Absolutely. So we are now, actually we have fodder development, we have organic agriculture plots, there is definitely rainwater harvesting in as many areas, and through Project Green Hands, we want to plant trees, and we have continued to plant trees. But this is where our business started getting a different response from local communities. I think it's about not doing different businesses, but doing the same business differently, by taking into account all these other interests and limitations to be converted into opportunities.
So definitely this needs to be done, there's no question about it, but still, this is still a band-aid treatment to a cancerous, malignant situation. Still a band-aid treatment. I'm not saying today if you need a band-aid, it should not be fixed. It should be fixed, no question about that. But using the land for people's well-being, this is also something I wanted to suggest to you, that instead of buying these lands, if you set up these windmills even in fertile lands on a rental basis, that you pay the rent to the farmer. Right now somebody has put up a hoarding or a cell phone tower, they pay 10,000 rupees rent, and the farmer is very happy, he doesn't mind quarter acre of land is wasted, but he's getting 10,000 rupees a month rent, and his livelihood's taken care of, now his farming is better done. So we should also think of setting up windmills in even fertile lands, agricultural plots, offering them a rent for the land rather than buying it up. Because a farmer may sell his land today because of some dire requirement for economic help, for monetary reasons. But once he sells his land, he's not selling land, he's selling his soul. After that, he doesn't know how to live, and his life, even if you give him market price, I'm saying, even if you offer him a market price, his life just goes down after that, unless the next generation gets educated and becomes urban population. In the village, for him to live without the land is a disastrous way to exist for a human being.
We are of course into that now we want to lease rather than buy, but government is also giving patches of land to wind energy kind of companies, solar energy companies to use. Those are more barren lands, and even on those, some people who are at the bottom of pyramid, they are cultivating and surviving. For this kind of transition to happen, it's not just companies, governments and local people, but even commercial world. For example, this whole business of guarantee, hypothecation, the banks have to learn to accept these new models of development, and for that where the point that you had come to,
no.
That the larger…
There are two aspects to this, Semantinee. One thing is, if we look at the larger ecological situation, it's one way. If you're just talking about developing alternate energy sources like wind, solar, whatever, it's another way. But I'm saying, how much ever wind you blow, there's only that much wind which blows upon the planet. There is more sun, but we're still not able to use it in any big way. In spite of doing this, right now our energy requirements the way they are, we are going to fulfill a very small percentage. Definitely all these things need to be done, there's no question.
No,
But if it's a serious ecological question…
No, even the business in which Jack is…
No, he just changes the environment of the society by making the woman look much better than… He just changes the environment that way.
He could have done similar products out of some chemicals only or more synthetic products, but they choose to make pure natural resources and packaging them, which will compete with some other cheaper products. And therefore, I don't know, I would like to know more from you, the eco-friendly products that you make in competition with available products in the market.
I am not an angel. Really, I do business and I'm not an angel. I have to contribute to the growth of the company. You know, we have 15,000 all over the world, and my company comes from a little village in France, in the west of France. I know that I take a lot of things, not only natural things, natural raw material from the earth, you know. I take chemical material from the earth. I know that I have a depth about the nature. I'm clear with it. I'm not eco-friendly guy. I do business, and also I want to do something positive for the environment. I'm working for a cosmetic company. I'm working for women. I have 50 million customers. I remember when I was in Kenya, United Nations, you know, the program for environment, I met Mrs. Wangari Maathai.
Okay.
She received the Peace Nobel Prize because she planted 37 million trees in Kenya. Why? For the emancipation of the woman. That was the first step, to say, plant the trees, you can have, it's like a power. When you meet a woman like that, you want to do more. And I remember I signed with her and with the Secretary of the United Nations to plant 1 million trees. And she said to me, you do better. And say, why? Because you have a program. You have a program, you have a company, you have 50 million women that can urge you, and you can do more and more. Mm-hmm. That's why now I want to plant 50 million trees, 15 with you and your green hands, and I am working with 20 countries. But I say, you know, 50 million trees, it's huge, but it's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just 3 days of the deforestation of our planet.
So like Jack said, 50 million trees. One thing, it takes a lot of money, takes a lot of effort. He's been traveling all over the place. And his part is only one part. For us to put it on the ground, to make it grow, it takes a whole lot of things. And for the tree to grow, it'll take another 5 to 10 years even to become a reasonable thing that you can call it a tree. And that's removed in 3 days, okay? So, the solution is not in just doing this and that. Yes, all these things have to be done. It's fabulous that he's taken this up, 50 million trees, and irrespective of which country it is he's planting, knowing that it's for the planet, not for the country. If you ask any company, but my experience with various other companies has not been the same. If I tell them, please support this, we want to plant 114 million trees, will you plant it in my state? Will you plant it in my village? Will you plant it in my factory? Not understanding that the ecological work is not about my part of the world and your part of the world. Wherever it is planted, everybody will benefit from this. And tree planting is most useful only if it happens below 30 degrees latitude. It has maximum benefit if it happens from the equator to 30 degrees latitude. That means India, segments of Africa, segments of Asia and South and America are the places to plant. We have approached just about everybody. People who are running airlines in this country, automobile industries, we worked out enormous plans for them, just saying, say suppose you drive a car, let's say you drive a Maruti car. Average, if you're driving in a year about 10,000 kilometers, this is how much carbon monoxide you release. This is how many trees if we plant. When the car is produced, if you plant this many trees, this car is taken care of. Whatever pollution that car will do in the next 10 years, that's taken care of by what we plant. And that cost can be divided between the manufacturer, the dealer and the customer. You can load it on all of them and it's not much. It is all a question of 100 rupees, hundreds of rupees, not thousands of rupees. And I'm sure the customer will be willing to pay, knowing fully well when he drives, he's compensating for what he's using up. So either we do that now consciously, or a time will come, we will have to put a meter on your nose. How many breaths per minute are you taking, we'll have to charge you. And those who cannot pay,
We'll take off the machine.
of course.
But the dilemma is whether to give it as a choice. Today, desirable is that you
There
do,
is…
but
we
no,
have
nothing
passed
happens.
we have passed the time of choice.
Yeah, yeah. But
It has to be a law.
But the regulatory controls aren't working either. There are many things that you have to do this. When there is reporting to be done on sustainability, that have you offset so many emissions, there are many people in the really business of environment. They are assurance companies, they give you standards, they give you certificates that yes, you have done it. Because there is a whole industry that is surviving on giving certificates that you are eco-friendly. They are the ones who will come and say, yes, his meter was only reading this much and his offsetting is that much. So, making it choice also is not working, making it mandatory is not working.
No, making it mandatory will have to work, it's half-hearted.
But then whose job is it?
See, right now, if you make any law, the first lobby which opposes it is definitely the business, because they're thinking of this quarter's balance sheet. This has to change. If you change this, many of them may sink. Many businesses will disappear if you bring in strict environmental laws. We know by our experience here in Tirupur, which is the hosiery center, many dyeing units have just died because they insisted on just recycling the water or at least purifying it to some extent before they release it, treating it before they release it. Otherwise, if you dug a well anywhere around Tirupur, you were getting multicolored water, depending upon that day what color t-shirts they're making. Now they put this law. Because of this law, hundreds of businesses just sank. The reason for these businesses to sink is not the way for us to understand that environmental laws are against business. The reason for these businesses to sink is, these businesses are running on ramshackle infrastructure. They are trying to make a business out of nothing. Yes, that is enterprise, I understand, but even enterprise has to stand on 4 legs. Those enterprises which are tottering on a single leg, they will all fall. And that has to happen, we can't help it. That has to happen. Survival of the fittest will everywhere go, everywhere it's a law, isn't it? So, making it a law on many levels is most important, and enforcing the law is not going to be easy. But it's easier to enforce it on the businesses than on the common people. If you make a law to enforce it to the whole population, that's going to be an enormous task and we won't be successful in that. But to enforce a law upon the business is easy because they're always in the scrutiny, they're always in the scanner, so it's easy to scrutinize them and make sure they pay for it. If they don't follow the law, don't put them in the prison, just make them pay for it financially. So those who are not willing to put up the treatment plant, they're willing to pay the fine, let them pay the fine at least.
Even when you will have stringent laws and monitor those, their performance, the support services in countries like ours are not sufficient. For example,
that is the whole
waste
thing.
disposal.
That is the whole thing. Right now, if you have failed to run a hosiery unit successfully, you can go into waste management. You have an opportunity for enterprise.
Yeah, but landfilling is currently so rampant, and there are vendors and vendors who come and give you a service of cleaning your backyard. So a company looks good by saying that, okay, are you giving it to a lawful vendor a contract of waste disposal? Yes. Now thereafter, the vendor being often a small enterprise or even an unregistered enterprise does not come under the control of the law that you're talking about. Creating another set of law for them would mean penalizing people.
No, let's get this straight. There is no business
Actually, there should be no business in this country which is not under the law.
There
is no citizen in this country who is not under the law, isn't it? So similarly, why is a business running not being under the law? So that shows that you're not administering the place.
Yeah, that's why I said whose business it is to make sure that every business is registered, because if we were… so far we were talking only about the cakes and eco-friendly materials or wind energy, but there are like… people are not only making cake, they are making hazardous poisons to be sold and drunk in the market, and they are governed by the same laws as people who are having more safer products. So when you register a business or a product, those conditions that have to be seen, it's a humongous task. And businesses cannot take responsibility for that.
Actually, it is not. It is the way we are approaching it. So, for example, in Tamil Nadu, if you want to build any building in Coimbatore city, mainly there are 14 different departments through which you have to go through. It is like having 14 lifetimes. The experience of shame, death and retribution and being born again before you go to the next department. Why? Why so many? Now, you can make a simple law. These are the norms to build a building in Coimbatore city. If anybody wants to build a building, print one 5 rupee notebook which can be a printed book, which… if I want to build a building, I must read the law. I must know what's the law. Build accordingly. Only thing is you can't use it till you get a certification. When the certification thing comes, it is very simple. If it is by the law, he gets a certificate. If it's not by the law, the building goes down and you go in. Why are you scrutinizing my plan, my plumbing, my sanitary? Why are you scrutinizing all this nonsense? Anyway, I can give you something and not do that anyway. You can't scrutinize that. I'm saying you just have a final scrutiny after I've done it. If it's by the law, I get to use it. If it's not by the law, shut it down, isn't it?
So there is a whole section of society which is surviving on this license raj, as they say. So many people, instead of going through these 14 births that you are saying, they take the second birth and go by going…
first we have to die, you must understand.
So people are finding easy escape because India cannot be changed, let's go somewhere else for our business and come and…
You need to understand they are very eco-friendly. People who go away to United States or people who go to South America or Africa are ecologically very good for India.
Yes, but India doesn't change. But India doesn't change, no?
No, India will change if we export half the population, India will change dramatically.
That's a whole new business, I would say.
No,
and people are doing
see,
it, that's what is called
there are
body
many
shopping.
societies where the biggest problem is human resource. For India, the biggest problem is natural resource. Human resource is plenty. Not only plenty, it's young. We are the only country in the world which has over 600 million youth. It's a tremendous possibility. They should go and work across the planet. We can build a whole new world with 600 million people working hard to make it happen. In the other countries, they've had generations of affluence and the youth are not willing to work. They want a holiday. Yes. I'm saying this is a cycle of things in any society. They go through a period of affluence, those people are not interested in working, they want to become something else. But these people have not seen affluence, they want to work, wherever it is, whatever it is, they want to work because they want to make it. So if you do not discriminate between nation and nation, if you do not cut the planet into pieces and allow little more, I know you can't completely eliminate these things, little more porosity as to wherever people want to move on this planet, let them move. If somebody is looking for employment, they go to United States, somebody is looking for a spiritual process, they come to India, is it not a good exchange? If you want to come to India, you are stopping them. If you want to go to United States, you're stopping them. What the hell is this about?
So whether businesses or migration, whoever controls this or decides policy related to this, as you said, the political will, people who are minding these businesses of, countries, societies, they have to have this wisdom and this outlook.
Now, when we're talking about law, we're definitely talking about the lawmakers.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Obviously. But the reason lawmakers are today, the way the businesses have grown is, lawmakers are in many ways subservient to the businesses. In many ways. The businesses can play a key role if there is a change of heart in them, but they are not thinking beyond this year's balance sheet. A few are thinking beyond. There are many like him, I'm not saying this is the only one, there are many, but not enough still.
Yeah, we often…
Not enough to find a solution. There is enough ecological awareness for cosmetic appeal. I'm sorry, I don't mean any. For cosmetic appeal, there is enough ecological awareness. There is not enough ecological awareness and not enough movement in the world for a solution. Like he said, 50 million trees, it sounds so big and so fantastic, but they will pull it out in 3 days. I say it like this, but Jacques will say like this. For him, this is 3. For me, this is 3, but it's still 3.
So if the mindsets and the worldview of both lawmakers and business leaders have to change…
Waiting for them to change is not the way. This is not a spiritual process. This is… If it's a spiritual process, I create a situation and wait for them to change. But this is a disaster looming on us.
So how would you deal
There is
with
no
them?
waiting.
So how…
You have to shoot them. Shoot them not with a gun, but with a law. You have to shoot them with a law, an appropriate law which will fix them. When I say shoot, don't think of killing. You know, even an injection is a shot, isn't it?
Yeah, so the urgency of our environmental sustainability is so much and need for businesses to grow still there, and this young population needs hands to work. So somewhere we have to…
if you change the landscape of business, some will suffer, some will drown, but immediately they'll adapt and learn to do business in the new atmosphere that we create. Somebody should have the courage to create the new atmosphere.
So how to identify these people who have courage and make them perform? Because today the people who should be doing these things are subservient to one thing or the other, systems, businesses.
No, you're still talking about businesses who have the courage. I'm saying…
No, I'm talking
businesses who have the courage to do such things are seen by the larger business community as the stupid lot, because they're losing out on their profits, because the business is about profit. Now, when you say you're in charge of the corporate social responsibility, you have allocated a small percentage of your profit, yes? Fortunately, your business itself is eco-oriented, that's a different thing. But suppose, let's say you are producing generator sets instead of windmills, because both are generators, it is just that you're using the natural force to do that. So suppose you are doing generator sets, you allocate the same amount of your profit for CSR, still I'm saying that's not the way. CSR is only cosmetic in nature. It does things for awareness, but it will not create a solution. It cannot create a solution. Simply add up all the CSR amount in the world and just see what is the amount. It's peanuts. You can't change the world with that.
Yeah, but the way we are interpreting CSR in my company as well as there are many other companies who look at CSR as not something that you do as a frill. After you do all your business the way you want and then use little bit of your profit to look good.
With your business, Suzlon is a different kind of business. No. Your business itself is eco-oriented. You can, instead of doing CSR, I would say you must do your business more aggressively. When I say aggressively, don't limit just to wind, bioenergy, solar energy, everything in the same land. I was just wanting to propose, we will create a solar panel. This thing, if you give me 1,000 acres, I'll fill it with solar panels and generate power, I'll pay you rent for your land. You do business, I'm saying. Don't do service, leave the service to me. You do business.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now, why I'm saying this is, because only then you will do it large scale. Otherwise, you'll do it only this much.
Yeah, but even the eco-friendly businesses can be done in a way that can harm societies and environment. That's possibility. For example, just transport of turbines can spoil the road in a way that local people will suffer from it.
That is why I'm saying, make a business of all those things. All you have to do is, one thing is, you can create fish farms, which nourishment is a huge problem in South India. You can create fish farms, which all these things I've already given you. You can create fish farms. Wherever possible, we can grow trees and ask them to use it for goat rearing and other things. We can create solar villages out there. You can… if it is in the wind tunnel, the villages, you can make small wind turbines for each house. Or for the village, you can build a small one which will power the village free of cost if it powers. You think they will be against you? They will support you, they'll come and work free for you. If you provide power for the village, he is paying 4 rupees a unit, make him pay 2 rupees a unit, he will be too happy. And for the remaining 2 rupees, ask him to work for you. He will work for you. I'm saying businesses can be worked out on various levels which are beneficial to the local people, so that they will support and sustain this whole process or this whole… I would say this whole movement towards moving to a more friendly way of doing… eco-friendly way of doing things.
In Europe, if you see, Northern Europe, people talk about having lesser emissions, having lesser energy consumption, using biodegradable products, having less waste to dispose of. This is CSR. CSR is not do-gooding, fixing communities out there and doing something nice to others. That's a more Virappan kind of model, as they say, that you earn as you want and spend a little bit for charity. That's not what is CSR. CSR will have to be increasingly doing business responsibly, taking responsibility for every action that you do. And it's much easier when we talk of environment, because environment is visible. Don't cut trees, you come to know whether trees are cut.
What I am telling you is, if you go like this, now Jacques is doing this, okay? Tomorrow, after a few years, after many years, many years, okay? When his son takes over, he may not be interested in doing it. I'm not saying necessarily, just as an example I'm saying. The next person in the line may not be interested in doing it. So what are you going to do with him? I'm saying fix the law that everybody has to do business in a certain way. This will create a certain amount of upheaval, but it will be long-lasting.
So, creating these lawmakers by shooting them, by threatening them, by making somehow sure that these kind of laws come into our society, that businesses are not done irresponsibly by harming others, but a long-term well-being of all.
The reason the lawmakers are not willing to make the laws most of the time is it's the business lobbies which don't allow them to make those laws.
Whatever are those root causes, whether they are in business houses which hold the purse, or political will that is not allowing to make it happen, or some vested interests of some individuals, how to make it happen is the thing. Yes, laws are required, stringent action is required, urgently it is required, all agreed. Now we have to make it happen, and people like this who are very keenly listening to this conversation want solutions. How should we do it?
There is no one place to start. One important thing is, we need responsible movements, because every politician in the world, every administration in the world, because today world is largely democratic, they depend upon people, common people who put the vote. The business may have money, but the people have the vote, which is a real thing. At a certain point, at least once in a few years, human beings or citizenry is a reality, otherwise they're a virtual reality. They're not really there, you know. So when they're a reality, it is very important that we build a movement which can put enough pressure on businesses which operate in the area and on the lawmakers in the area, that unless these things are done, normally the activists are taking a violent, anti-somebody kind of mode. You need to understand this. When you're an ecological movement, you're not against anybody, you're for everybody. That's the reason why you want to do this. The only reason why you want to take up ecological work is you're for every life upon the planet, not just human beings. You want the insects and the worms also to live well, because you understand our life is not separate from each other, our life is an integrated and a connected life. How healthy the worms are today will determine how healthy we are tomorrow. We know this very well today. So because only somebody who is for all life can take up ecological work. But till now, the eco movements have always been against somebody. This mode has to change. The eco movements and the activists have to change and mature into a different level of activism, which is yet to happen. A few have come up here and there, Green Hands movements is happening. One thing that we are proud of with the Green Hands movement is more than what we have planted, that has happened phenomenally well because of people's support, but it has bred so many other movements. So many other people have started doing this, which is a wonderful thing. And the government of Tamil Nadu itself is trying to outdo us all the time now. It's really, really good. This year we are planting 60 lakh or 6 million trees. They are planting 64. But we will make sure our survival rate is very good. I don't know whether they can make sure, but I'm sure they will also try their best. But that's good. So that's what is needed, that this becomes part of everybody's life. It is in the schools, the children are talking about it. Once the children start talking about it, they won't let their parents be something else, they will make them eco-friendly. All these things not as a solution, but to become a movement to a point where the necessary loss will come. Without the necessary loss, there is no solution. It is only cosmetic. We can do it for our satisfaction, but there will be no solution. I don't want to do this for my satisfaction. I want to see that there is a solution somewhere.
I think people get away from this because they can today, but a point will come where it will not be a choice anymore. Let's not wait until then. Let's each one of us
when that point comes, turning around is not going to be easy. It is going to be at the cost of millions and millions of lives, not just human lives. There are more precious lives on this planet than human lives. Why I'm saying this is, today the Living Earth statistics says, if all the insects on this planet die, this planet has little more than 20 years to… The life on this planet has only little more than 20 years. Everything will disappear. If the worms on this planet die tomorrow morning, all of them, planet has only 8 years, the life upon this planet has only 8 years left. But if you and me disappear, planet will flourish. So I'm saying, in our mind, in human mind, we may be thinking the life upon this planet is human-centric, but life upon this planet is not human-centric. In natural terms, the worms and insects and the birds and the animals are far more important than human beings. Because we as human beings have become the controlling power, we are beginning to think that we are the most important life. So this mindset has to change. We need to recognize every life as life. For this, spiritual movements taking on ecological concerns becomes vital, because the essence of spiritual process is just this, seeing life as life, not seeing you as you and me as me, just seeing this… all this as just manifestation of life. So the reason why spiritual process is ultimately the only solution for ecological disaster that is looming upon us is, unless humanity begins to recognize life as life, there is no solution. Right now, all CSRs and ecological solutions are oriented towards making human life a little better. Let us use recycled paper. That's not the point. If you want to save ecology, the bioactivity on the planet has to rise. Now, bioactivity is not happening in your intestine, so you're drinking it out of a bottle, some biological stuff, some bacteria you're drinking. If you drank any water from any place in the local pool, you would get enough bacteria. But you're buying that and drinking that now. So, laws are needed. Laws will not come unless strong ecological movements, responsible movements, which are oriented towards solutions, not to beat somebody down. Always movements have an enemy. I am saying there is no enemy here except ourselves. We are the enemy. Movements which come from this level of consciousness that we are the enemy, there is no other enemy sticking out somewhere there. We are the enemies. With this, if we develop large movements, which are also action-oriented, because just movement on the street is not going to help. It must be action-oriented to gain respectability in the world. At the same time, it's a large-scale movement. Only then we can change the laws. But right now the problem is, from nation to nation, okay, I am willing to change the law and restrict my country, but what about you? You're not willing to do, you want to benefit from my laws. Now nobody is going to do it. Who is to bell the cat is the whole problem. Because internationally there is no one body which can enforce. At one time we were building United Nations to a point where if something really needs to be done in the world, United Nations can say so. But that has been lost. In the last 10-15 years, that's been completely lost, and there is no one body. Everybody is talking about self-interest as nations. If nations talk of self-interest, why should the individual talk of self-interest? They will also talk of self-interest. And now, who should bell the cat is not there yet. To determine this, the larger thing is, it must be a worldwide movement.
United planet or something.
Planet is anyway united, it's only human beings.
We need to unite with them, like nations aren't, yeah, sure.
So I'm saying the movement should learn to connect and make an international movement, that there must be so much pressure on the governments that they will change the laws. All the laws that need to be changed will not change in one day. It's a continuous work in our lifetime. If we change enough laws which are destroying environment at a very rapid pace, whatever activity is destroying it at the highest pace. Right now, 50,000 trees in… in 3 days. In 3 days. Yeah. This one thing we can put a law, isn't it? So that these 5 million trees that we plant don't go waste in 3 days' time. We can make a law to at least stop this. We can't stop the generator from roaring right now, it has to roar. But we can make this law. Like this, if we plan in 25 years, these are the laws we will bring. If we formulate, these are the laws we need to bring in the next 25 years, step by step, so that it doesn't hurt us too quickly. Too much of a drastic change if you do, people will not take it. Step by step if it changes, if they understand, if you give them enough time to understand why such a change has been made and bring the next one and the next one.
The problem, there are two problems for me. The population, we are 7 billion today in the earth. 2 centuries ago, we were just 1 billion. And the second problem is the consummation, because…
Without reducing human population, there's no solution. Whatever you do, they'll gobble it up. See, instead of trying to reduce human aspirations, it is better to reduce human population. It's a much simpler thing to do. So we were planning in the villages that in the villages we want to take a volunteer kind of thing, a oath, that this year in our village it'll be a no conception year. No conception. Just enjoy your honeymoon, don't make babies. But all these things will take a lot of effort. And if we don't control the population, whatever you do, it will go waste, because the estimated population in 2050 is 9.5 billion. At 9.5 billion, all of us will have to live at 40% less resource than we are right now enjoying. When I say resource, I'm not talking about gold, diamonds, oil, stuff. I'm talking about water, food and air to breathe. 40% less resource we will have to say. That's why I said we want to give a legacy of disaster for our children. That's where we are. So this is not going to change simply because of small actions, and people are trying to fulfill themselves with little bit of action. I did this, I planted 10 trees, I did this, whatever. I'm saying even if I plant 10 million trees or 100 million trees, it is not something to be proud of or to be… think my life is fulfilled. No, because that is still not the solution. It is silly to believe To create a small solution for a huge problem and think it is a solution is a silly way to exist. What we are doing, 114 million trees, is not a big solution. It is a small solution. It is like you're sending an ant to fight an elephant. It's a silly way to approach a problem, but at least an ant is going. We believe the brave ant will inspire. And above all, the culture of economics. Right now, the whole world is driven by economics. The idea of economics right now, our idea of well-being itself, in this country just about 30 years ago, the idea of well-being was not just economics. In fact, even now in Tamil Nadu, if you go to a function and see a very rich man and a poor man, they will be wearing the same type of clothes. No, not by any law. Just like that, by social norm, you will see they're all dressed the same way. Same white clothes, same shirt, same dhoti, that's the same thing. Only thing is, he may come in a Mercedes-Benz, this guy may come in a bullock cart, but they'll be wearing the same clothes and they'll sit together. That culture is good because your sense of well-being, even socially, is not determined by the wealth that you have. Money does not decide well-being. Well-being is determined by various other aspects of your life. So to bring that back is what spiritual movements are striving, because if we don't bring that back, there is no solution. If our idea of economics is only more and more, we have only one planet. The Living Earth statistics says, if every citizen upon this planet has to have as much as an average American citizen has, we need 4.5 planets, but we still have only one. Another one they have cited 24 light years away. It's not too far, just 24, okay? But still we don't have another 2.5 planets. So the problem is not small, but another way, some people in a resigned way, they say, it's okay, nature will correct it. Yes, for sure it'll correct it. And the correction will be reducing human populations. And whenever human populations are reduced, you don't see it as a solution, you see it as a disaster, isn't it? When nature reduces human population, do you see it as a solution or do you see it as a disaster? It is a disaster, isn't it? A natural disaster means Mother Earth is not even supposed to flex her muscles. She's not even allowed to stretch her hands or legs. If she does something, 100,000 people will die, because human beings are just everywhere, where they're not supposed to be. She cannot even sneeze. If a volcano happens, right there they've built towns around the volcano, around a live volcano. I'm saying we are too many. We are wonderful, but we are too many. We need to reduce our wonderfulness. By 2050, if all the countries in the world take this up, that they will aim to reduce their populations. If we do this, that itself is a great solution. Technologies are continuing to refine themselves. The amount of power we are consuming, let's say to light up this place, is almost 1/10 of what we would have consumed 15 years ago. So technologies are improving, our consumption of power is coming down. If we aim at reducing the human population, which is very much achievable, in 40 years' time, you can bring down the human population at least by 25%, if only the necessary laws are done. The Chinese have done it. Everybody comments about it. They think making politics out of it is a great solution. But one of the biggest impediments to bring such laws, to enforce it, to make sure human populations come down, is the religions of the world. They want more numbers for their congregations. Their problem is, their whatever morning congregations are not full. People have been partying hard the previous night, so early morning they don't turn up at the congregation. So they're disturbed, they want to produce more people, so the religions of the world has to be controlled. The laws must control them. They have no business to talk about things for which they have no solutions. Yes, they must restrain themselves to whatever their expertise is. They shouldn't be talking about other things. We need a law. People won't shut up. You need to shut them up means then you need a law for that also. So, human numbers are the biggest problem. And if you look at it that way, it's a simple arithmetic problem. You have to subtract, you should multiply. Is it so difficult to get this? In India, in 1947, how much potable water an Indian citizen had per capita, today we have only 20% of that. By 2025, we will have only 7% of that. You understand? That means right now you're drinking water from the bottle. See, that's written Shirvani. You know what Shirvani means? Shirvani is the water supply, the river for us. Now it's coming in a bottle. By 2025, in Chennai and Mumbai, you will be having bath with a bottle. Your morning bath will be with a single bottle. It will not be with buckets of water. These are not some doomsayer's predictions. These are realistic calculations. It's heading that way rapidly. So, laws, if laws have to come, first thing is the businesses have to ease the throttle a bit on the lawmakers. They shouldn't be constantly looking at profit orientation. They need to look at if businesses have to exist, people have to live, and if people have to live, ecology has to be good. All this looks like empty philosophy which is anyway not going to be any solution. So the immediate solution is, he is planting 50 million trees. At least we should get them to do that, many of them, the corporates who have the necessary money to do it. And as you said, we must involve the local people in making it happen. They must see this is not man versus animal, man versus ape, all kinds of movements are coming up. We need to understand you are an ape without a tail. There is no man versus ape. The planet is for all of us and we cannot exist here by ourselves. Our existence here is not because of our economic activity, because of the natural process that's happening that we are living here, not because of economic activity. Right now we are made to believe it is because of the percentages of growth that's happening in this country you will live well. No. We will live well here if everything is green, beautiful, water is flowing, air is pure, we will live well here. This idea has to go into every human being's mind, into every citizen's mind, into every child's mind. And we should not have so many youth in this country. What it means is we've been breeding. If we are very proud to say we have the largest number of youth, yes, we have them, we have to train them and make sure that they build a better world tomorrow. That's a different thing. But there's nothing to be proud of. We should not continue to think we must always have lots of young people. Lots of young people means they've been freshly born, isn't it? So it's very important that we get these things in the right perspective. I have seen in business meetings, very responsible business people openly saying, we have the youngest population. So I asked them, what happened to the old people? They said, what about the old people? No, we have the youngest population. I said, no, what happened to the old people? Nobody gets old in this country. That's what it means. That's not an accolade that you wear around you. Responsible people need to be made to understand. When I look at very highly placed people, they have no clue about any ecological, even the simple statistics that are around, that's available to everybody, which is every day in the newspaper, you will see people holding very responsible positions are not even conscious about it, just about everywhere in the world. It's shocking that lawmakers and others and business people, many of them have never even bothered to acquaint themselves because they're busy with something else. It's very important that it sinks into everybody. So awareness campaigns are as important as action-oriented campaigns. Action seems to be a solution, but action is not a solution because the reverse action that's happening, 50 million trees, he plants in 5 years, I will take another 10 years to make them grow for him, and somebody will remove it in 3 days. See, I'm getting the European way.
I have a question. At the beginning of last century, 20% of the population lived in the city. Now, 50% of the population, in the worldwide population, live in the city. I have the feeling that the people who live in the city, well, in India, in Europe, in USA, they are disconnected with the nature. And the relation between the nature is, I don't know, not spiritual, but it's like TV, you know? You understand, TV show. What's your feeling about that?
Definitely it's true. At the same time, on an intellectual level, probably people living in the cities are far more aware of the ecological concerns than people living in the village. In the village, they're connected to the land in a certain way. But you talk to him about ecology, he has no clue what it is. It doesn't matter for him, chopping a tree means I'm making agriculture happen. So, it is a kind of a two-way thing. In the cities, because of the media, because of the internet, people are aware of it intellectually. They may not know what is a tree, but they know we need a tree. Any questions from the audience, yeah?
For every action to happen, there's first need to have an intellectual understanding, and there is a sense of urgency. So I'm addressing this question from a larger context, not just planting trees. How to have a persistent sense of urgency?
Now, the planting trees thing came up essentially because we wanted to save the soil of Tamil Nadu. We were not thinking of saving the world, because the soil is getting destroyed so rapidly. Once you destroy the soil, it doesn't matter what you do, what your intentions may be, you're willing to put the whole economy of the nation into planting trees, it's not going to work. So saving the soil was our most important concern, that's why we went to the farmers and told them to bring in a certain amount of trees into their farm. Once spreading awareness and identity is not an issue, because in this country, particularly in this culture, there is a very strong identification with the land. Still 70% of the population is in agricultural activity. And even those people who are in the city, they spend still at least, I would say, 10% or 15% of the urban population in the country still goes back to their village roots, at least for a short period of time in a year. So they still have that agro connection. Probably in other countries in the world, most of them will never go back to the village. But here they still go back because their relatives are in the village, half the family is in the village, so they have that identity with the land. We have to exploit that identity now. We have to make that identity grow in them, that your identification fundamentally is with the land. Because what you call as myself, this very body is a piece of this planet. So this is the identification which we brought about with Project Green Hands. When this one thing just fired up millions of people, when I told them, see, what you exhale is the tree's inhalation, what the trees exhale is your inhalation. What does that mean? That means half your lungs is hanging out there. It's not a tree, it's one part of your lung. When they saw something so simple, yes, it's true, I cannot breathe with these lungs unless that lung is breathing. So that is my extended lung. So protecting that becomes natural. So this identification is already there, we have to enhance it and strengthen it, particularly in the younger generation who are going to be active in the next 25 years. We have to strengthen this identification. People are identified with their caste, creed, religion, nationality, all this is fine. But the most fundamental identity is you're a piece of this planet. Your very body that you carry is a piece of this planet, and half your lungs is hanging out there on the tree. I want you to feel it. Not just think it's a great idea. It's not an idea, it is a reality that we're living, isn't it? This reality has to sink into people. You don't have to talk about identifying themselves with the tree. If you sit in front of a tree or under a tree and breathe consciously, you know there's a big difference. There's a big difference. Sitting in the building and breathing, sitting under a tree and breathing, there is a big difference, one can feel it. I want people to feel it, but there are not enough trees for all of us to sit under. We need to plant them. I would like to especially acknowledge Jacques Rocher, 50 million trees in the next trees. Her company is doing 7,000 megawatts of power from just So, I want you to see them not as people, I want you to see them as solutions for the future. They are the solutions for the future. What we need to do is, right now there are just two sitting here, we need to do multiplication, we need to increase their numbers. We need to increase their numbers means they must be recognized. People should know that people are making this contribution. I wanted to talk about it. A Frenchman is coming to Tamil Nadu and planting 15 million trees in Tamil Nadu. I want you to talk about it. It's very important that we constantly talk about solutions. The important thing is that everybody talks about it, that everybody doesn't throw up their hands. Everybody says, yes, there's a solution, people are working for it, what can I do? What can I do will naturally come when you see people who create solutions are recognized in the world. Definitely, more people will look for solutions. That's what we need to do. Thank you very much. Lights off. Yes, lights off.
The scientific community released a report that proves, beyond a doubt, that the Earth is getting warmer. This global warming is caused by the things you grown-ups do and the things you don't. If drastic measures aren't taken soon, by the time I grow up, there won't be any fish left in the sea. Rainforests and clean air will be a thing of the past. Polar ice caps will be gone. Oceans will rise and entire countries will disappear. Life will change in ways you can't even imagine. There could be famine, worldwide epidemics. Life expectancy will be lowered. We are not just talking about the future, we are talking about my future.
ये प्यास धरती तलच रही बादल की खोज में और बादल भी बरस जाए पेड़